Hi, I'm the Beauty Professor, and you can find my beauty blog at www.beautyprofessor.net. Today I'll be doing a tutorial and review of the Hourglass Immaculate Liquid Powder Foundation, which is both mattifying and oil-free, and it's in the shade Golden. I picked this up last month when I was in Seattle and used my VIB discount to try yet another foundation. And before I get into the specifics of this foundation, which as a preview I'm very pleased with, I will say that I am attempting yet another format for filming my videos. I'm in a different space lighting wise, and I'm using strictly natural light right now, so I'm going to be fighting against the loss of natural light coming out of this window over here. So we'll try to be as succinct as possible. Alright, back to the foundation. This foundation comes in a silvery frosted, rather weighty glass bottle. I love the fact that it's secure. You get an ounce of foundation. It's got a nice snap top, which makes it reasonable for travel. And it also comes with a pump, at least in the box, that's independent of the bottle. So there's a screw-on cap, and you actually remove that and put the pump mechanism into the foundation when you're ready to use it. And this is what it looks like. Now, on the Sephora website, Golden is described as a light to medium beige for skin with neutral to pink undertones. Don't let that pink scare you. Oddly enough, Golden doesn't seem like a very congruent name to go along with something that would be pink, so I can't go into explaining why that might have been given the moniker that it's been given, because it doesn't match in any way. However, I note that this is not an inordinately pink foundation. In fact, I would deem this neutral for neutral beige skin on the light side. I am currently an NC 23 to 25, and I don't really have any obvious pink. I don't ever go for pink in foundations, and yet I'm wearing this color, just a very light smattering of it right now. I'm going to go ahead and apply more for the video, but I'm wearing it now, and I don't think it translates pink, nor does it oxidize pink throughout the day. I did apply some on my hand moments ago, and it's dry now, and you can see that even here, try to get it right into the lens, it's not a pink color. So I will be, when I do a formal blog post of this foundation, which I certainly will, I'll go ahead and juxtapose this foundation shade next to some other NC 20 to 25 favorites that I have, so that you can see that it's not a pink shade and it will likely work for those in the neutral light skin family. Alright, on to the foundation itself. This foundation purports to be long wearing, and it also is intended to mattify. It's considered a liquid powder foundation, and certainly when pumped out, and I'll pump some more onto my hand so you can see here, when it's pumped, it is indeed a liquid. But upon buffing it into the skin, it dries fairly quickly, not as fast as, say, a Revlon Color Stay. In this case, I'm glad of that. I feel like that gets too dry often very quickly. At any rate, it dries down to a matte finish once it does dry. It's not dewy, but even though it's matte, I find that it's kind of a satin matte, and it doesn't get cakey throughout the day, as a super matte finished foundation often might degrade. I'm very rarely compelled to add powder over it, and I'll show you how I like to apply it right now. So I take my beauty blender, and I'm going to go ahead and just spray some of my Evian facial spray, the Brumister, it's in another language. I picked up 3 of these at Nordstrom for around $20, and I keep one in my work bag just for freshening up. I keep one in my bathroom, and I've got one on standby. All I like to do is spray the beauty blender slightly, just to give it that damp quality that makes it work so well with foundation. And then, in this case, I'll put it on the top of my hand. Usually it's on my wrist, but I'm working in a little different angle. Okay, so I just put one pump, and I like the way this pump dispenses the right amount of product. So I've just dabbed my damp beauty blender into the product, and now I'm going to apply. And I apply with a light patting motion. You'll notice that I'm getting instant coverage. And I'm just going to keep this patting motion up until I've covered my entire face. Making sure to blend. All right, and I'm going to get very close to the lens of this camera so you can see the finish. It's very smooth, great medium coverage. It's matte, but even after it's been freshly applied, you don't see a cakey, dry look. You see a semi-matte, kind of demi-matte satin finish that removes shine, but creates great coverage that's rather skin-like in nature. And that's what I'm always going for with foundation. Like to have a finish that's skin-like, but not overly dewy. All right, some other specifics about this foundation. Just like all other products in the Hourglass line, it is free of offensive chemicals like parabens and sulfates. It also has anti-aging properties that I'll go into in more detail when I write about it, but I love the fact that it's giving me skincare in addition to providing me with coverage and protection throughout the day. There is no sunscreen in this, and in this case I'm pleased because I prefer to add my physical sunscreen as a base under my foundation. I use the Kogan Dough UV Milk, which is strictly physical. I tend to shy away from chemical foundations when I can. In terms of wear, this foundation is intended to be long-lasting, and I find that it truly lasts the entire day. I've worn it in rainy weather, humid weather. Today, it's excruciatingly hot in Southern California. It's 90 degrees at the beach, and I have had this last me the entire day without melting off or budging. In terms of how it compares, maybe on a parallel sense to other foundations I've used and tried, I think it's similar to the Revlon Color Stay Whipped Cream Foundation, not in terms of texture because that's certainly a more dense foundation, but in terms of lasting power and finish, I think that it's on par. Granted, the ingredients in Revlon are probably less ideal, so this, for those of you who are concerned about the ingredients that are soaking into your skin, this is definitely a better option. In terms of the shade range, I was able to swatch some selected shades. That was a feat. At the Space NK last weekend, and so I'll be sharing those with my readers on Beauty Professor blog when I do a post on this, just to show you some options. Unfortunately, they didn't have all the testers out, and there are, I believe, 14 shades available. So I was able to get at least half of them for reference from lightest to darkest. Now, as the day goes on, I might feel compelled to add some powder, but it's, as I said before, not a necessity. So if I do, because this shade is a little bit on the darker side for me, I wouldn't call it an incorrect shade, but I don't want to make it any darker with a powder. So this week I've been experimenting with my Sunday Riley Soft Focus Pressed Powder in 125W. I have swatches of this on the blog, and I reviewed it last year. It's a really light shade, actually, for being in the middle of the shade range. You can see it here. It's a beautiful true beige on the light side, but what I like about this powder is that it is opaque but not cakey, and in the sunlight, it gives the most beautiful satin glow. I don't think this is going to adequately capture it, but I'll try to do so in pictures. So what I'll do is use my Hourglass retractable foundation brush, which I adore and I've mentioned many times over. I just take a little bit onto my powder brush. I always dust a little bit off so I'm not getting a lot on the brush. And then I'll just pat it into my skin. It's not going to lighten up my face, but it's also not going to darken it, and I appreciate that effect. So I'll just spread it out throughout, and you can see the finish. It's very finely milled powder, and like I said, it has a mattifying effect, a refining effect because there is some opacity to it, but it also has a very glowing effect that's not shimmery. It's very subtle, but I like that it gives a believable finish. And then to close, because I'm otherwise rather barefaced with the exception of whatever eye makeup remains from this morning, which in this case is some black liner and some by Terry Ombre Black Star Shadow in my under eye region. Then I might finish with a lip color. Lately, I've been really enjoying the MAC Up the Amp. It's the amplified version of the MAC lipstick. And this is by no means a new color. In fact, I remember buying this years ago when I was studying in college and just loving this color, wanting to wear it at full force and knowing that would probably be over the top, but always mixing it with something. Today I'm just going to add a coat. You'll see it's a very creamy, opaque violet of sorts. And then I'm going to top it with some of my newly procured Tom Ford lip lacquer in Pink Lust, which I have swatched on my blog this week and also will be doing an up-close review of very soon. So just so you can see, it's a beautiful, non-sticky, shiny peachy pink gold lip. Feels very hydrating. And here's the full effect. So, in terms of this foundation, is it worth it? Yes. I would say that I'm really happy I tried this foundation. It's not a brand new foundation. It's been out for at least a year, but I'm happy that I've given it a try because it lasts all day, even in inclement weather like humidity or rain or intense warmth. It does not slide all over the face. It has not in any way, shape, or form irritated my very sensitive skin. No clogged pores, nothing. And I'm thankful for that, and I attribute that to the premium ingredients that are within this little bottle. It's accessible in terms of being available to women all over the country because it is sold at Sephora. And in terms, the only thing I didn't mention was the fragrance, and I would say that it's a very light, slightly herbal, but nothing offensive kind of scent. So I appreciate that as well, that there is not an overwhelming fragrance involved. All in all, this is a beautiful foundation for people seeking medium to medium full buildable coverage, looking for something that has extreme lasting power, that is respectful of sensitive skin, and also has great skincare benefits, once again, which I will go into in greater depth on my blog. So I hope this has been a useful introduction to this foundation, the Hourglass Immaculate Liquid Powder Foundation, and hopefully my tutorial on how I like to apply it quickly with the Beauty Blender is helpful as well. I welcome your questions and comments on this foundation, and I invite you to visit me at my blog, Beauty Professor, which can be found at www.beautyprofessor.net. Take care.